for this early November, I would say, when we showed performances, when we had players available, when we were playing the likes of Arsenal and Chelsea, and how we were playing in those games and the performances we're having in those games, the alarm bells should have been ringing then. They decided, to stick with it. They're going to back their man. There's absolutely no talk of him leaving. Come January, we had to go big in January. We had an injury crisis. We were, fears of relegation were maybe not at the forefront of everyone's mind, but they were still, becoming more and more real as the week goes on. We needed help. We needed support. You either back Frank in that January and you send a message, look, this is our guy, we're going to give him the tools needed to get out of this situation, or you sack him and bring someone else in and get some of the players in who are more suited to his way of playing. They did neither. They didn't sign him the appropriate amount of players, and they didn't they didn't sack him, and they kind of just basically said, look, you've made your bed, you're going to have to ride out this situation, we've given you a lot of money in the summer, and this is what you're going to have to contend with. So they did neither. They didn't back him or sack him. I don't know whether the manager situation contributed to the lack of activity in January, but that needed to happen. Johan Langer at the end of the window saying, patting himself on the back, we didn't do any stress signings, we're always planning for the future, all this kind of bollocks. And now we're in a situation with another injury. The injury crisis deepens, and you're asking Thomas Frank to get even more out of this squad, which he couldn't even get more out of a squad which was injury ravaged. So getting even more out of the squad that is now down to the bare bones was always going to be a tough ask. But the bare-faced reality is the performances have been abject, to say the least. That is being kind. The football has been hard, making my eyes bleed. It is so bad. The performances have just been inexcusable. Thomas Frank blaming the injuries for the lack of attacking patterns, to me, says all that you need to know. We've had managers before, even last season, we were down to the bare bones, yet we were still able to show attacking patterns and how we want to play. We were still able to play the ball forward and with intent, and still able. Yes, performances suffered, but if there's no excuse for how we play our football, regardless of the injuries. And it was stale, it was old-fashioned, it was predictable, long ball forward into the channels, chase the second balls, and try and win a corner or put a cross in the box. And that was our only way of attacking. And that is no way to be managing a Big Six team. I'm sorry, it was inexcusable. And the results were there for all to see. 2 wins in 17 games, our worst manager in our history. As you said, yesterday, it became all too real that this relegation battle was nothing to be taken lightly, and we are absolutely in the thick of a relegation battle. And once we went within 3 points of West Ham, I don't care if it was for 30 seconds or for 10 minutes or for 1 week or how long. Once you're in 3 points at any point of the relegation battle, that should be alarm bells absolutely going off all over the place. It should be panic stations at the Tottenham Hotspur training ground or wherever it is yesterday, because of the situation we let ourselves in. That first half, if that is the players playing for the manager, when I'm watching that first half, I'm sorry, then his tactics are even worse than I thought. I think I'll give him the credit to say he's lost the dressing room, because if he hasn't lost the dressing room, then he absolutely has no clue what he's doing on the pitch. But I believe that yesterday the players just weren't playing for him, and I think it's been like that for a while. We have had abject first halves for many weeks now. Yesterday was just another added to the collection of those absolute dreadful, hard to watch, disgusting first half performances where we were lucky we weren't 3 or 4-0 down. I think he's been lucky that the situation hasn't been worse, to be honest, because we've gotten some lucky wins when we shouldn't have. Even the last when we got Palace, we shouldn't have won that game. Earlier in the season, we got a bunch of wins where we weren't playing well. We were just getting over the line with some set pieces and winning games. We are fortunate that we are not in the relegation zone, given how we've played. The stats suggest, All season, the stats have been suggesting we should be in the relegation zone. The lowest amount of XG from open play in the league. The biggest gap between XG difference in terms of XG conceded and XG created. We have the biggest gap. The underlying numbers, more often than not, they do catch up with you, and people want to overlook them. And just because we're scoring goals at a higher rate than our XG suggests we should be, people want to say, yeah, XG's bollocks and all this kind of stuff. Underlying data, more often than not, it catches up with you, and it has caught up with us this season with this manager. It's been a long time coming. It should have 100% happened after West Ham. West Ham should have been an nadir for this football club. It should have been rock bottom. That should have been the kind of message that we are in this relegation battle. They didn't take it. We all thought, all the reports were saying, even if we beat Dortmund, he's not going to last. We did win, and he's been in the job ever since. And now they've, in my opinion, in a sense, the timing is correct, because we do have a 12-day gap now between the Arsenal and this and the Arsenal game. So if you're going to do it between now and the end of the season, at this point, now is 100% the time, because it gives you a bit of a break to find a solution and get someone in who can implement some sort of plan before that game. But as well, you're kind of giving an interim on a hiding to nothing on the first game, because it is Arsenal who are absolutely rampant this season, and that's going to be
That's what Manchester United said, first 2 games against Man City and Arsenal.
No, you're right, but they've got better players. They're not injury ravaged. Let's be honest, the Arsenal game.
It's still what they said, though. They said, an interim coming into Manchester United, their first 2 games after the form that they were showing and the football that they were showing, they got Manchester City and Arsenal. It's a game of football. It's 11 v 11. Anything can happen on a day of football.
Obviously, anything can happen, but the likely situation is we could absolutely be on the edge of hiding in that game. That's the reality, given the players we have available. So giving an interim that as his first game, and if he does get on the end of a hiding in that first game, which is entirely possible, all of a sudden he's off to a bad note, and the negative feeling continues. We'll park the interim conversation to one side just for a moment. Just sticking with Thomas Frank. This had to happen. We were sliding further and further into trouble. This manager is been out of his depth ever since the first bloody press conference, when he came out and his opening message to the Tottenham fans was categorically, all I can say is we will lose games. That is he always said is the only thing he can guarantee. He didn't say he can guarantee we can win games. He didn't say he can guarantee that he's the right, that we will get us playing good football. The only thing he can categorically say with a 100% certainty is he will lose games. Well, guess what, Thomas Frank? You fulfilled your bloody promise, and now you are out the door. He's going to be remembered for holding an Arsenal Cup before a game. That is going to be his everlasting message. I think he's a nice guy. I think he's a good coach. I think in certain scenarios and certain situations he can thrive. But at Tottenham Hotspur, a Big Six club, with his mentality, it was on a hiding to nothing. This was a disaster of an appointment. Every process that we went through to hire this manager has to be under immediate, instant review, and has to be looked right now. Anyone who was at the forefront of making this decision to hire Thomas Frank has to be under unbelievable scrutiny, and their jobs should be on the line, and they should be having to justify themselves as why they should remain at Tottenham Hotspur. And that is the bottom line when it comes to this sacking, because I don't think this sacking could have gone, this managerial appointment could have gone much worse than it did. And they went through 30 candidates, a 10-point process. They made a big song and dance about how Thomas Frank was ticked all the boxes that they were looking for. He was the outstanding candidate. This was the guy that they put all their eggs in the basket for, and it's been a disaster. It's been an absolute disaster. So anyone who was at the forefront of making that decision and stood by him for this long, their job has to be under immediate review. And for me, they have to be sacked as well. And we need better people with better processes making better decisions, because this has been a disaster of an appointment. Absolute disaster. Nuno was sacked after 3 months, and he has more home wins than Thomas Frank has.
That's mad. That is mad. Is that true?
That's true.
Oh, my God. And you know what?
Thomas Frank hasn't beaten Nuno for home wins.
You're talking about the you're talking about how inspiring he was in the first press conference or uninspiring he was in the first press conference. I was more inspired by Nuno's press conference, and that was laughed about for ever since till the present day. You know, we'll make you proud is what he said. And Frank says, we will lose games. It's just, you just can't write it. The whole thing is absolutely laughable. But like I said, I don't hold anything against Thomas Frank. I really don't. He just wasn't the right fit for the football club. He's a really nice guy, and I want to see him work, and I want to see him thrive. But it just wasn't possible at this football club. That's the reality. So I'm not going to sit here and start kicking a man while he's down. Thomas Frank, you know, he's deserved the sack. It's been a long time coming. It should have come a while ago. And now we got to contest with the rest of the season and hope we can save ourselves. Because let's be honest, as much as we can sit here and say sacking Thomas Frank's a good decision, and I agree with that, what do we do now? Because we got to bring in an interim from now to the end of the season, or do we get in a De Zerbi or something like that? If we do bring in that interim, let's say it's Johnny Heitinga or Ryan Mason or whoever it may be, can we hand on heart say that, you know, they're definitely going to save us from the drop? Because I can't sit here and say that. We are 5 points above the relegation zone. Like we mentioned before, at some point we were 3 points. If it wasn't for a last-minute Manchester United goal, we were sitting here today 3 points above the relegation zone. We play Arsenal next game. West Ham play Bournemouth at home. It's very likely by the end of the next game week, we could be 2 points above the drop. Mm-hmm. Very likely. Like, this isn't even like hyperbolic or anything. Like, this is actually a likely scenario. Mm-hmm. So whatever manager is going to be taking the job from the end of the season is probably a manager that is not good enough to be full-time manager at this football club. Probably a worse of a quality manager than Thomas Frank. Yes, he'll probably get a fresh impetus and be able to hopefully gather the troops to go and get the wins that we require for the last 12 games. But it doesn't mean we're out the woods yet. We're by far out the woods in terms of this relegation battle. We're bang in the thick of the relegation battle right now. You know, last time we sacked the manager and brought in an interim for the rest of the season when Conte got sacked and Stellini and all that came in. It got worse. It got a lot worse. So I can't sit here and say like it's going to get better. I don't have much hope it's going to get better either. We just got to hope that we just get these wins from now to the end of the season and just save ourselves. Because you're looking at the relegation battle, we are the worst team in terms of form, in terms of wins, in terms of points out of the candidates. Against Leeds, West Ham and Nottingham Forest, we've picked up less points than them over a long stretch of games. So I don't know a way out of this. We need to just somehow pick up these wins. How are we going to do it? Who's going to be the manager? Who's going to be the leader to say, yo, I'm going to be the one to get you out of this, guys? Who is it going to be?
Great question. And that's the one we're all wondering right now. That's probably what saved Thomas Frank up until this point, because there is no clear alternative right now as to who can come in and save us. Is there people are asking, is it a coincidence De Zerbi left his job at Marseille last night? I guess we'll wait and see. I really like De Zerbi as a manager. I think he has been revolutionary in the last 3 years.
So did he get sacked last night or he walked?
I think he resigned. I'm pretty sure he resigned. I don't know if it was mutual or whatever happened. I think he's a phenomenal manager. He has had such an influence on the game over the last few years. He is a lot of what De Zerbi created has been implemented by lots of teams in recent years, and I think he's a revolutionary manager who's changed football in recent years. So I think he's a phenomenal manager, but unless we're going to
change football,
De Zerbi,
he's changed football.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are you talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. He's changed football. The way he plays has been absolutely revolutionary in the last few years in terms of the impact it's had on football.
Who's been impacted by De Zerbi?
Everyone. The whole Premier League, the whole press baiting and the way he plays through the centre, waits for the opposition. That's all De Zerbi. De Zerbi created it pretty much. He's a genius. But his man management, he's a hothead. He blows. He's able to blow at any moment. He's a crazy guy. And if you're going to get De Zerbi in, you're going to have to give him a long contract, or you're going to have to give him a permanent deal. You can't get him in as interim unless he's willing to do that. You can't get him in as interim. So what do we do with that? Are we willing to give De Zerbi a long contract? Are we willing to trust in him, or is he too much of a hothead? Is he going to be calling out the board? Is he going to be falling out with players? Is he going to blow up at any moment? That's the question marks you've got with Roberto De Zerbi.
De Zerbi's not the right fit for Tottenham. He's not the right fit for Tottenham. How is he supposed to work with this hierarchy, man? How's anyone supposed to work with this hierarchy? Let's get it right. We can all sit here and blame Thomas Frank for the form, and you know he definitely takes a large chunk of the slice of the pie. But this is a culmination of terrible owners managing this football club, players that back down at the first sign of trouble. Like, there is so much shit at this football club. And again, we go for manager after manager, and yeah, this is the worst manager that we've had in recent years for sure. And it had to change. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like he's been helped in any sort of situation. You're looking at the players as well last night. As much as you want to play for Thomas Frank, don't want to play for Thomas Frank, that's fine. But don't you think your own careers and your own livelihood and your own reputations are at risk here if you're embroiled in a relegation battle? Like, surely they want to play for themselves, never mind just play for the manager. I think you've got to look at every single situation. So what manager can come in here and work under these owners right now? I just don't understand it. I can't see one.
Look, that's a good question. That's a good question. Obviously, we have big problems with the hierarchy and the football processes we have in place and all this kind of stuff.
Like, you can't 100%. Get one of those. If you get De Zerbi in 6 months, in 18 months, in a year, we're going to be in the same situation. He's going to walk.
Probably. And that's the situation we have ourselves in. But we needed to get rid of Frank. Frank was
an
awful fit.
Totally agree.
So that's one question. Does Frank need to stay? No. Now, who do we get and who's the right guy and all this kind of stuff? I don't know. I don't know.
I'm saying on the players last night, though, like how abject and terrible that performance was, particularly in the first half and the majority of the second half as well. It's just like, the situation the club is in. You're getting paid by the club. The fans are always there to back you guys. And you put in a performance like that. It's just like, forget if you're backing the manager or not. Forget if you believe in the way the manager plays or not. At least show some desire and effort and work rate to get yourself out of the crap. You know what I mean? The whole thing is just poison. It really is.
I think these players have got a lot more to them than what we've seen. I think they've got... We have no way platform their best abilities, in my opinion, in any way, shape or form.
I agree with that.
They've got so much, and it's the manager's job to motivate them, to get them up for certain situations, to get more out of them. But
they should also have a bit of personal pride as well.
Okay, whatever, but I agree with that, and they deserve criticism. But at the end of the day, it falls down on the manager. If he can't get any more out of them, you need to have a different voice in there. And yeah, we can criticise them till the cow comes home, but we need them to stay up. That's it. We can't change the players. January's gone. There's no signings coming in. We're not selling anyone. We can have that conversation in the summer. But between now and the end of the season, they need to get us out the shit, because they're the ones who need to get the results on the pitch. And they need a different voice in that dressing room. 100%.
Totally agree.
So, whatever, we can talk about the players. But for me, I would have a conversation with De Zerbi. I don't know if I'd make the appointment, but I'd 100% consider him. I think we should sit down and have a chat with him and see where his head's at and if it's the right fit. My gut tells me it's probably not, but I'll definitely have a conversation with him. Or we do what everyone's expecting, and interim till the end of the season, and Pochettino. One thing to say about Poch, didn't Gus Hiddink, wasn't he an international manager when he went into interim at Chelsea? I'm pretty sure he was an international manager at the time, and he was doing a double job.
I don't know. I think I've only ever seen it on Football Manager.
No, I think he was. Chat, let me know if I'm wrong. Wasn't Hiddink, because he had 2 interim spells, didn't he? I think one of the interim spells he was an international manager. And then when he took that job at Chelsea, I might be wrong on that.
Was he Russian manager or something?
Something like that, yeah. I think maybe in 2008, maybe not. Yeah, see, yeah, someone says yes. Russia, he was Russia coach and Chelsea coach. So could we have an agreement with USA? Because he's only got friendlies between now and the World Cup. right? As much as I understand he's got a lot of work to do with the USA between now and the World Cup, he'll only have the players for a couple of international breaks, and then once the season ends, he will.
I like the way this is going. I like the way of thinking.
Could we have an agreement with USA and Poch? Look, just allow him to come in, save us, and then once the season ends, he goes full time with USA until the World Cup, and then comes back full time with us.
The problem I have with that is that Pochettino usually gets off to bad starts. He kind of needs a pre-season, and he kind of needs that time on the training pitch, which he's not going to get. You come in now, you're in the thick of the action, aren't you?
Absolutely.
So, is that such a smart move?
You know what?
Knowing how
You know what? You talk about slow start, right? The start that he had at Tottenham, yes, it was slow, but he got enough. He'll probably got enough wins in that start to keep us up now.
Yeah, but he had a pre-season behind him to judge all his players and all that kind of stuff.
Well, he has 12 days now. It's something.
It is something, but
Look how Carrick got United playing very quickly.
I know, but Carrick and Poch are different managers.
So Carrick can get a team playing straight away and Poch can't? Poch can implement something. Poch, he's a good manager. I'm sure.
But we know what Poch is like. We know he needs time. We know he usually gets off to poor starts. We can't afford poor starts. We need to get points now.
But my point is, even in his poor starts, he still gets wins. There might be the most convincing wins, but he still gets wins on the board. That's what we need. He won his first 2 games as Tottenham manager. Mm-hmm. He won his first. I know it didn't go well in the first few months, but in his first 2 games he won. So if he can do that for us, that'd be great. Even if it's not the most convincing performances, I would 100% be on the phone to USA and Pochettino if there's anything we can do there about having him come in, save us from relegation, and then go full time on the USA if it's possible. And if not, when it comes to interims, I don't know. Obviously, there's Heitinga. Obviously, there's Mason. Obviously, there's people throwing out Harry Redknapp. All these different coaches. I don't know who the right guy as an interim. I'm not in the world of football where I know the quality of coaches to that level of degree where I can say this guy's going to be a good interim. This guy isn't. Blah blah blah. All I know is we need a new voice. We need something else.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't be against it. I'm just not for sure if it's the smartest move. But look, I'll back it 100% for sure. But I am delighted that this news has come today. I really am. But I am still worried about, looking forward and to see how this season can turn around. But
look, the reality is sacking Frank doesn't guarantee we stay up. That's the truth, 100%. But we were heading down.
Yeah.
So we had to make that change. We had to roll the dice. We had to.
I agree.
We were getting relegated, in my opinion. We won 2 wins in 17 games, and only one of those wins was convincing. So
Sim, this morning,
it's ridiculous.
This morning, Antonin Kinski has taken to Instagram.
Yeah.
And he's just put out a post of just him in a Spurs shirt, and the caption saying "Heart's Desire."
Heart's Desire. Does that mean he's happy?
That's what it would suggest.
Is there an emoji there?
Yeah, of a heart.
Of a heart. As in, was that just now?
2 hours ago.
Well, the news broke at 10, so maybe that's before. But maybe he knew the news.
Yeah, I'm sure they knew within the club before it got released.
Maybe, I don't know. I remember on the documentary, didn't they only find out on Sky Sports News when Poch got sacked?
They did, but I reckon this. I mean, I got a text last night saying he's going to get sacked in the morning. So if
you're ahead of the squad,
if I doubt that, I'm sure people within the club knew.
Maybe, probably.
And I think as well, I reckon that that Vinay and people like that would have spoken to key members of the squad regarding this decision because they didn't want to take this decision lightly. Daniel Levy was a lot stronger, wasn't he? And he would make the decision on his own, probably without consulting members of the first team. But I don't think these guys are as strong.
No, there's a few nuggets coming out about how the sacking has played out. According to Tom Walnut, Vinay Venkatesham recommended Thomas Frank's sacking to the owners last night. The owners then decided to take action. So I think obviously losing Vinay, that was the final straw. Obviously,
Mate, Vinay is so bloody incompetent. It's a joke. Like, how is it only last night? Oh, you know what? I think we should sack this guy. Only last night. It's ridiculous. You wait till we get to the pits at the bottom of the Premier League. 3 points. He's probably only when West Ham scored. He's probably thinking, you know what? maybe we should make a change here. Like, so incompetent. He's waited till we're going down and down and down. If we would have made a change after the West Ham game, there is actually a possibility you go on a good run of form, we could get European football for next season. That's all gone now. You know what I mean? So how incompetent can you be? Get V-Knight out of this club. Get Johan Lang out of this club. These guys are clueless. They are clueless. Johan Lang, look at him. Ever since he's left Villa, they've gone on the up and up and up. He's clueless. He can't get a deal over the line. V-Knight, what is he? It's an Arsenal troll in the backroom staff at Spurs, making the shots and calling the decisions. I'm just sick of it. That is who I'm angry at. I'm not angry at Thomas Frank. I'm angry at V-Knight. I'm angry at Lange. I'm angry at the decision makers at this football club. They're the ones that have put us in this situation. They're the ones that need to be berated on a week-to-week basis. They're the ones that need to shape up or get out this football club. They're the ones.
Absolutely. Someone says, read Sky Sports Live. What's he said? Because there's a few other nuggets I want to get through as well, but what's people saying? Sky Sports Lyle says, as it stands, early indications are that an interim appointment until the end of the season is the most likely route Tottenham will go down. There are a number of reasons for this, but I think high among them is that there is expected to be a lot of change in the head coach market in the summer and more available. Yeah, I understand that as well. I think unless you're going to go for Xavi Hernandez or De Zerbi, unless you're convinced by one of those, you're going to have to wait in the summer until more.
I guarantee you that I reckon my prediction now for the direction of travel: Johnny Heitinga till the end of the season, and then Pochettino in the summer. That's the way I think it's going to go.
Yeah, I think that's, you're probably right about that. Unless we do what United did, an interim of the interim.
Oh, João Polinia on Instagram. Thank you for everything, coach. So, yeah.
No long message, just thank you for everything.
Thank you for everything. I mean, look, I think it's pretty standard, isn't it?
One of his lackeys. No, I'm joking. Ali Gold says, Thomas Frank lost the confidence of the dressing room. He put his faith in the small core leadership group of players. Some of those outside the main group would go days without getting barely a word from him on an individual basis, and few knew where they stood with him.
Look, the reality is the warning signs were there from really early on for Thomas Frank, all the way starting after that Chelsea game when he got ignored by Mickey van der Ven, when he got ignored by Jed Spence walking off the pitch. It's just been on a fast downward spiral since then. And you know what? We all talk about his tactics, and his tactics obviously weren't good enough. But I think the main problem with Thomas Frank was his man management style and the way to get players on board, because you can get better results playing his style of football if you have the players on board and if the players fight tooth and nail and actually believe in what he's trying to do. But no player actually, I don't think they believed in what he was trying to do. That was the biggest issue.
There's some real interesting stuff coming out from Matt Law about it. One source, this is from Matt Law, one source said Thomas Frank was constantly going on to the Spurs players about Arsenal, and they quickly got sick of it. Before and after the game at the Emirates, he was telling them how good Arsenal were. The feeling among some were very much just shut up about Arsenal. This guy is a gooner, man. Him and Vinay, get the rot out of our club. These gooners in disguise. Unbelievable.
What's he going on about Arsenal for?
Constantly, apparently. He was going on so much about Arsenal, the players had to tell him to shut up about Arsenal. Stop going on about Arsenal. What is going on at this football club?
I don't understand how we've got to this stage with such a major gooner infiltration at this football club.
Incredible.
How have we got to this stage? Seriously, how?
So the Arsenal Cup, he took it from home, I'm telling you. He took the Arsenal Cup from home. It wasn't placed. More from Matt Law, he says, almost from day one, there was a feeling within the squad that Thomas Frank placed too much emphasis on the opposition in training and preparation. A source has said most of the work was on what to do out of possession and how to nullify the opposition rather than work on how they could hurt opponents.
Yeah, I mean, that one's obvious, isn't it?
You could see that on the pitch,
That one's obvious, and I think that we've heard nuggets in that sort of similar vein as well. Like, you're Tottenham Hotspur at the end of the day. You know, we just won the Europa League last year. 5, 6, however many years ago we're in the Champions League final. We should trust our own abilities and be able to focus on our own game, to take the game to the opposition. That's the reality.
More coming out from this Matt Law article. He says, social media pictures poking fun at Thomas Frank and portraying him as an obsessive Arsenal fan were not just shared amongst Spurs fans, but also members of staff and players.
Mate.
Well, that obviously undermines him, doesn't he? When how are you going to respect someone when those things are getting shared? It's like when the Potter stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah.
As soon as that came out, they sacked him, didn't they? Like a week later.
Yeah. And there was also, I think, a Leeds one with the American Leeds manager.
Calling him Ted Lasso.
Yeah, and all that. You know, they got rid of him quite quickly. But after going on about Arsenal obsessively, and then picking up the Arsenal Cup, and then all these memes coming out, it was always going to happen, wasn't it? Let's be real. It was always going to happen.
Yeah. God, it's been a disaster, man. It's been such a disaster. And when you've got players making fun of you behind your back, showing these posts around, you can see we said it from day one. These guys, not day one, but these guys don't respect him. It's been clear. We saw it after the Chelsea game. They showed a lack of respect. That was the first clear alarm bell where Van de Ven and Spence walked past him without even interacting with him. It's only gotten worse since then. He hasn't ever had the respect of these players. And yeah, I think it's clear to see this has just been the wrong fit. He doesn't have the charisma and the mentality to be a manager of a club of this size.
And there you go, Heitinger taking training from the Times.
Yeah, 8 months taking training today. So whether that's indication that he's going to be interim, I guess interim of training today, Johnny Heitinger.
What do you reckon the mood is like in the camp now that Frank is gone?
I think there's probably a lift. I think they probably look. I think they understand we're in the shit. I don't think it's party time. Put it that way. You know, sometimes if you're like, let's say, mid-table, and you're struggling to get Europe, and he's holding us back right now, you know, he could give the whole place a lift, and maybe it's time to let the shackles off and maybe make a late charge for Europe. Right now, we are in a relegation battle.
We need someone to come in and going, have your ketchup back,
yeah,
mate.
Get the ketchup. But the players should realise that as much as, you know, Thomas Frank failed massively, we are not out of the woods yet. We are in massive trouble. So we need them all to pull together. I don't know if it's like, it must be a relief and it takes the pressure off a bit maybe. With now, hopefully the shackles will come off some of these players and we can start playing with lots more freedom. But there has to be a lot of concern still about the position we're in. So I can't have smiles until we're out this relegation battle.
Absolutely. It's one guy that needed to go, but the dominoes need to fall now. The dominoes need to fall. And that includes Lange, Vinay. You're looking at the whole backroom staff that have come in. Literally, only a few days ago, we brought someone in from Brentford, a physio. So what happens with these guys now? Every single Brentford backroom staff, I don't even know if any of them have done a good job. The only one that seems like he's done a good job is Jorgensen, and he's the only one that didn't come from Brentford, which is crazy. But I hope Jorgensen keeps his job. Maybe we should just give it to Jorgensen for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it worked for Brentford, didn't it? Giving it to a set-piece coach. So he's the only one who seems to be doing his job at the moment.
That's what I said,
Jorgensen. So why not? Why not? I don't know. The whole thing has been an absolute mess from start to finish. It's just been absolutely diabolical how this club has been run.
It's a good step. That's what I'm saying. It's a good step right now, but we've got a lot of work to do from now to the end of the season just to stay clear of relegation. How mad is it that we're sitting here as Tottenham Hotspur fans in 2026? How many years in the new stadium? 5 or 6 years in the new stadium. Had a Champions League final back then on the back of winning the Europa League, and we're sitting here about genuine concerns about getting relegated. When we're sitting here, not only about genuine concerns about relegation, but showing the worst form out of all the teams that we're going up against for relegation. It is just mind-boggling. It is terrible. And the feeling inside the stadium, I've never felt that way inside a stadium before. With everyone around me had a genuine fear that Spurs could go down. Everyone was checking on their phones about the West Ham Manchester United result. When West Ham scored last night, oh my God. I've never felt something like that before. And I don't ever wish to feel like that again, man. It was a scary, scary moment. It really was.
Yeah, I'm just reading through some of the article here from Matt Law, see if there's any more nuggets from him about, a source said most of the work done. That's what I said. There's going to be more stuff breaking, isn't there? An exclusive reported by the Telegraph thought players discussed their relationship with fans in a meeting after the defeat Chelsea. It can now be revealed that players who had arrived in the summer were shocked to hear long-serving players articulate their strong feelings on what they believed was a long-standing disconnect. That disconnect quickly widened, with fans turning on goalkeeper Vicario and Van der Ven, and you're singing "You're Getting Sacked in the Morning." The vehemence of the chanting against Frank and the defeat to West Ham forced Tottenham and the Lewis family to consider their options. The Dane was given a quick stay of execution after the Dortmund game. It was the Champions League that ultimately stopped Frank from being sacked sooner. But there was no shaking the trouble feeling he had inherited an unbalanced squad that was incapable of competing domestically and in Europe, and that he was badly short of leaders. Any other sources? Some believe Romero has been granted special privileges, blah, blah, blah. We heard that. Any other nuggets? It's not just Romero's discipline that's been questionable, as timekeeping was an issue for the player, for players young and old. The Dane tried to draw a line in the sand by leaving Basuma out of his first squad following repeated incidents, and Basuma apologised, but then called upon, and then he was called upon against West Ham. It was just the latest and listed examples of Frank undermining his own authority. He had a no dickheads policy, but implementing that in North London was not easy, as he might have anticipated or liked.
Was that a lot of dickheads in North London?
Apparently, the cultural problems he encountered were not confined to his players, with issues existing and presenting themselves in other areas of the club. They will not be magically cured by another change of head coach, and at Christmas Frank had candidly warned club chiefs that the second half of the season would remain bumpy with tough moments. But even after the embarrassing West Ham defeat, the former Brentford manager believed he could turn around the Spurs' quote-unquote super tanker. There were encouraging signs in Champions League victories and a draw against City, but an 11th league defeat against Newcastle, during which supporters again chanted again sacked in the morning and for Poch, proved fatal. Frank claimed he was convinced he retained the backing of the Tottenham board after the loss, but that belief proved to be another rookie error to add to the list for the 52-year-old. A message for his successor is clear: don't mention the A word. I
tell you what, like, looking at his demeanour in all his interviews and his press conferences last night, I think he knew it was coming.
He looked a beaten man, especially that one with TNT. He was giving evils to that reporter, but he looked a completely beaten man.
I think he knew he was sacked. I think he knew what was coming that night or the following morning, for sure. Because I think his demeanour completely changed from previous games. He was much more defiant about his job in previous games. This time, I think he knew. I really do.
According to Polymarket, Tottenham currently stand a 17% chance of relegation.
Which is mad. 17% chance. Crazy. But look, that is the news today. Thomas Frank has been sacked from Tottenham Hotspur. Obviously, we'll keep you in the loop of how this situation does move forward and does manoeuvre. But Johnny Heitinga is taking training. Is he going to be the interim? We've got a long wait now to the North London derby. But they need to make a change. They need to make a decision quickly, so we can imprint some ideas for that game.
Yeah, I agree, but I also think they've made the decision now because they've got 12 days, and they didn't. And I think maybe beforehand
they got more time, as if it was coming in a few days' time on the weekend, for sure.
So don't make any rash decisions, but we don't leave it too long, because we got a very important game coming up. We need points. Even if it's Arsenal, we need points just to stave us from relegation. We are in the thick of a massive dogfight. So make the right decision. Take a few days if you need, but we need to get the ball rolling on a new manager as soon as we can, for sure.
All right, you want to go through some super chats?
Yep. Sam Kang. Clearly, they saw De Zerbi and pulled the